Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this webinar, our latest edition of What's New in Beekast, the webinar where I share with you every latest Beekast update in under 30 minutes, or at least I try. We have a lot of updates to share with you today, so I'm very excited. A lot of stuff to show you. So I think we'll get started pretty quickly. I'm going to let a couple of people join us. I see the numbers going up a little bit, so that's great. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon for those of you in France or at least Central European time. So my name is Clara. I'm the Marketing and Communication Manager at Beekast. And yeah, just going to make sure that everyone can hear, see me correctly, that you can see the screen that I'm sharing with you today. All right, I got a thumbs up, which usually means that that's all good for everyone. Thank you for sharing. Okay, great. So yeah, a lot of things to get to. We have a lot of exciting updates in April. A few ones that actually happened just a couple days ago. So if anyone here was already watching the French webinar, you actually are going to get a couple new updates in this webinar. So yeah, there will be a couple new surprises in here. And I'm going to start us off with something that you may already be seeing on the screen that I'm sharing with you right now, and that is our session banner. So we've gone and updated the session banner, trying to make it a lot more informative and a lot easier for facilitators, owners, anyone that's kind of using the session to present and using it on a daily basis. It was important for us to make the session more informative and clear. So what we've done is, as you can see on the right side of my screen, we have now clearly labeled and ordered our action buttons. So this is what I'm talking about right here: settings, share, present, and results. These buttons, we had the share button that was always made to be pretty visible, but our settings and results buttons were very, very small. For those of you who can remember, they were very tiny icons, which could have make it sometimes pretty complicated for people, users and facilitators, to kind of find what they were looking for in this banner. So what we've gone and done is just make these buttons a lot easier to read. They're a lot more visible, just basically a lot easier for you during your user experience to see and use. So we've also organized them in almost in a chronological order, if you will. So by this, I mean that when you enter your Beekast session, the first thing that you're going to want to do is set up your session. And so you have this first button, settings, that immediately takes you to your session settings, where you can get a really great overview and kind of start preparing everything in your Beekast session. And then once all of that is ready, once you've added your activities, you've created your session from start to finish, well, you're ready to share it with your participants, right? So this is where the share button comes in. You can go ahead and click on it, and then you'll be able to share your session with your participants. And then if you want to present, once your participants have joined your session, you're ready to start presenting. So here we have our presentation view. This is what we call our projection screen, for those of you who are familiar with it and use this feature. And then finally, your session is finished. You're ready to start going over your results. You maybe want to track and measure some of your session's metrics. And so you have the final button here, results, that will take you to a space dedicated to your participants' scores, the overall an overview of your session's results, and of course, the 3 reports that you can generate directly from Beekast. All right, so as you can see, yeah, these buttons are now a lot easier to look at, to understand, and to see. And another thing that we've changed is we've made the key session properties visible at any time as well. So before, in a Beekast session, you didn't always remember the navigation mode or the participant identification or your session status. Session status was open or closed. Is your session open or closed? By default, a Beekast session is always open, but here we have our little green lock right here that lets you know that our session is open. And then what we didn't have before is a reminder. Okay, right now we can see that our session is in synchronous mode, which means that the facilitator has full control over the presentation. The facilitator is the one that decides when to change slides, and so your participants are following along. And this is great because this is a reminder that didn't really exist before. You had to know where to look for it in Beekast, and we just wanted to make it a lot easier to have in mind when you're presenting and when you're in a Beekast session. And finally, we also added the identification mode. So this is also easier for everyone that is in a Beekast session to know, oh, hey, that's right, my session right now is in avatar mode. And if I want to identify my participants, I need to go in my settings and change the identification mode so that my participants, when they enter my Beekast session, can be identified thanks to their email address, for example. All right, so that is the first change that I wanted to share with you today. Our first big update is definitely this session banner that has just been made a lot easier to view and to understand and read for facilitators and session owners. All right, now, second update that I wanted to share with you, and this is really nice because it's something that I get to share with you basically every month now. For those of you who have been following along, as you know, we have been updating our activities for them to have the instant preview as well as autosave. So before in a Beekast session, when you created an activity, you had to go in and save every change that you made along the way, because if you forgot to click on that save button, your activity, some of the changes may have gotten lost along the way. So we listened, we heard all of your feedback, and it was super important for us to make it even easier for you to create your Beekast activities. And so what we've gone and done is we have added autosave, which means that now when you're creating an activity in Beekast, everything is saved along the way. You don't have to remember to save. We just do that for you, much easier, right? And then what we've also done is we've added instant preview. So I'll show you what this looks like right now, because we have added this to 4 new activities. Before, instant preview and autosave was made available for the word cloud, for the quiz, for the survey, and we've actually gone and added the form activity, the matrix, the prioritization, and ranking. So we are up now. Let me show you right now for those of you who have been following each update very closely. Now in the orange rectangles are the activities that now have instant preview and autosave. So if you're creating a word cloud, a survey, a form, a board, a speedboat activity, a prioritization, a matrix, a ranking, or a quiz, you will have access to these 2 new features. All right, let's see what this looks like for those of you joining us today who may not be as familiar with these updates. If I go and create a new activity, so I'll go ahead and click on my add a slide. As you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and pick, well, let's pick one of the most recent activities that has gone and changed. So for example, we could go and select the form. Let's do the form activity. As you can see here, I now have my form in the center of my screen. I have my activity that's waiting to be created. And on the right side of my screen, I have my settings that I can start setting up, kind of my activity settings. So I can start and give this form a title. So let's do a feedback survey. And if I go ahead and click on enter, then as you can tell in real time, I can now see and preview that the change in my activity. So my activity title has changed in real time, and I don't need to save because it's automatically saved. Then I can go ahead and add a question. And as you can see, immediately the question pops up in the center of my screen. This makes it super easy for facilitators and session owners while they're creating their activities, while they're building their session. This makes it very easy for you to have a good idea of what the session will look like, what the activity will look like before even finishing setting up that activity. So it's really great to get a preview of what your activity is going to look like and just make sure that you're getting everything that you want out of it before getting and exiting the settings and going into the part where you're ready to start and play the activity. So as you can see, along the way, I can just go ahead and select a star. It'll change in real time. And then I can just say, what did you think about this webinar? And there you have it, ready to go. And as you can see, I no longer have that save button. Just trust me on this. You can go ahead and click on the cross right there, and your activity is all set up and ready. And then when I click on start, I can go ahead and participate, and my participants can go ahead and join the activity as well. So there you have it. That is the instant preview and the autosave features for 4 new activities in Beekast. I'll put the slide back here for those of you who want to take a closer look at which activities are now available for these features. All right, so that was another really exciting update in Beekast. Another exciting update that is really focused on feedback that we've gotten from you, our users, our customers, and this is something that we really value because it's always a pleasure to kind of make new features and updates in our interface thanks to your feedback, and that's what we try to do as much as possible. And here what we did is we have to talk about the QR code, making it easier to access. So for those of you who are used to sharing a session in Beekast, there are multiple ways that you can do this. You can either go and click on the share button. When you click on the share button, you can share a public link or the session code. And by, for example, copying the session link, you can then add that in a chat. For example, if you're working in Teams or in Zoom, you can go ahead and just copy paste that in the Teams meeting chat, and then people will click on that link and enter the Beekast session. Now, another way of doing this is you can go ahead and click on add a slide, and it's by sharing a QR code. And so if you go to the link in QR code, you have this slide that is automatically created for you. And if you are to take your phone and scan the QR code, then as a participant, you will automatically join the session that is being shared with you today. And so that's super handy, especially for people who like to join sessions through their phone, an iPad, any kind of support where they need to scan the QR code to access the session. And this is something that's really used for events or even in-person meetings or training sessions where you don't want everyone to get their computer out in front of them. And you actually want to try having them use phones, for example. Now, the problem with this is for facilitators, the QR code, this slide, can be a little messy because this means that you have to go back to the slide anytime you want to share the session with someone. So for some people that are going to be on, let's say, slide number 45, if they have to go back to slide number 2 to share the link and QR code, and then they have to find their way back to the slide where they were, it can get a little messy and tricky for facilitators. And then some facilitators, they use the presentation mode. Now, the presentation mode has a button that allows you to generate the QR code to just have it pop up at any given time. But once again, we have a lot of session owners and facilitators who don't necessarily use the presentation mode. So what we did is we simply created the QR code icon right here. We added this feature in the right column of the Beekast session, making it available at any given time for facilitators. So let's say I'm on my slide here. Someone needs to join the session with their phone. They lost the session. They can't get back to it or anything like that. Go ahead and click on QR code, and automatically a QR code will appear at the center of your screen in a pretty big format, making it super easy for people to scan. And once I'm done with that QR code, I can just exit and I'm still on my current slide. So no more juggling between one slide to the next, no more having to switch from my presentation screen to my actual Beekast session facilitator view. This just makes it so much easier at any given time. If you need to share that QR code, you have access to it by just clicking on this QR code icon in the right column of your Beekast session. And we also added, of course, the public link and the copy session code, making it super easy for you if you want to just two birds with one stone, go ahead and scan the QR code. And then for those who need a link or for those who are connecting through a session code, you can go ahead and copy that and share it with them as well in a chat, for example. All right, so that is also another little novelty in our Beekast interface that we're super excited to share, and I think it'll make a lot of our facilitators' lives easier along the way, so that's always nice. We are pretty good on time right now. We're 15 minutes in. I don't see any questions. I got some thumbs up letting me know that people are, I guess, happy with the changes. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any questions or if you want to share even just your feedback on what you're seeing today. I always love to read those, so feel free to share that with me. And yeah, we can continue. We're doing great on time. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the sharing mode. So this is also a very quick and small update, but that can sometimes make a big change in the way that we experience Beekast. So as a session owner, the connection mode is now visible in the share window. So I'm going to show you this right now. What this means is that before, as a session owner, it was always a little difficult to remember how your participants were being identified when they join a Beekast session. So now, as I showed you, you now have access to this information here in this little banner. But when you click on share your session, we also have this reminder right here. So before sharing your session, why it's important to have this information is because when you share a Beekast session, the identification mode will have a big impact on your results and how you can interact with your participants along the way. So for example, when you are in avatar mode, you are basically in a anonymous mode. Participants who join your session will be identified thanks to an avatar. So it's usually an animal with an adjective. So for example, curious owl or nice lizard or something like that. So it's always kind of a fun little avatar, but that makes the session completely anonymous, right? So when your participants are joining, you as the facilitator, you're not going to know who's who. You're just going to be seeing all of these animals with adjectives, and you're not really going to be able to say, oh, hey, I see that Mark answered this, and Jose answered this, and Camille answered that, which makes it a little hard for people who are hosting, for example, training sessions where they need to be able to identify their participants, or even meetings where you want to know who said what during a meeting and you want to have that recap at the end, knowing who participated and whose idea this was. So having the right identification mode is super important, because once people are entering your session and they've joined an activity as, for example, an avatar, you can't go back and change the session settings and change the identification mode, because of course, for safety and security reasons, we wouldn't allow you to say, oh, hey, everyone's in an anonymous mode, feel free to share all of your ideas, and then switch and force identification on your participants. So very important before sharing a session to make sure that you've set up your session properly with the right identification mode. And this is something that some people forget along the way. We're so excited, we create our session and then we immediately want to start sharing it with our participants. And so we click on this big share button and we immediately share it, and we kind of forget to think about the identification mode. And by default, a Beekast session is always set on avatar mode. So here, we just added this little box right here to help you remember and visualize, oh, be careful before sharing your session. Just remember that identification right now is set on unique avatar. And if you want to change that, you can go ahead and click on the edit button. And by clicking on edit, will take you immediately to the right place in your settings. So you can go ahead and change. And for example, click on email. As you can see here, participants will now be identified using information. So for example, thanks to their email address and their Beekast account, we're able to identify them using a first name, a last name, and an email address. This is great, for example, if you need to do an attendance check, because with, for example, avatar mode, as you can see, an attendance check is not possible. Same goes for assigning actions and decisions to participants. If you're doing project management and using Beekast for project management, you're going to want to make sure that you have access to this feature that allows you to assign tasks and decisions to participants. And then in username, this is the last identification mode. This is just a version where participants are identified using a username. So when they join the session, they're free to choose how they will be identified. And so they decide, oh, well, this session, I want to be called Clara. And so when I'm in my session, people will be able to see the name Clara pop up. But once again, be careful. They're not identified using their Beekast account, so you won't have their email address, which makes it impossible to use features such as the attendance check, actions and decisions, or even just make sure that participants can find the session in their account afterwards. And then you also have session access restrictions. In email mode, you're going to be able to restrict the session access thanks to a domain name or an email, whereas in avatar mode and username, you can only have restriction through a password. All right, so small details to keep in mind, but it's always super nice to have that little reminder, especially for those who, like me, have a tendency to share their sessions super quickly once they've finished creating it, just because we get excited and we tend to forget that by default we are in avatar mode. All right. So that was another quick little update, something that we try to make easier for you along the way in your user experience. And the final update that I wanted to share with you was the dashboard performance for master clone sessions. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with master clone sessions, this is a new feature that we launched in Beekast at the beginning of the end of last year, actually. So it's been out for a little while now, and it's a feature that's only made available to a certain plan. So for those of you today joining us who may be on some of our starter, pro, or business plans, you may not have seen this feature pop up in your space. If you're interested in the master clone feature, first of all, stay till the end of this webinar. And second of all, make sure to contact us, get in touch with our sales team, and reach out just to be able to test this feature and access the right plan for the master clone feature. All right, so master clone features. The master session is basically kind of a template session. So what this feature does is we allow you to create a master session. This master session will be a Beekast session with activities, everything that you want in it. Once you've created your master session, you're going to be able to clone it. So basically, you're going to duplicate this session and share this with other facilitators. And the master session will not be able to change. So it'll be a template. So you're basically cloning the same session over and over again to play it with different groups of people. So this could be, for example, in a training session, you're going to create your training session. This will be your master session. And then you're going to clone it and you're going to share it with multiple groups that are going to play this training in their specific sessions. So you're going to be able to host the training session for the marketing team, but then you also want your sales team to be trained on this topic as well. And then perhaps you need the team in the UK to be trained, but the team in Spain to be trained as well. So you have these multiple groups, whether they're teams, whether they're regional, whether they're subsidiaries, and basically they're all going to be trained thanks to this session. And these are your clone sessions. And all of these clone sessions, the results of these sessions are going to be fed back into the master session, which will then have a giant dashboard allowing you to see what has happened in each session, which sessions have had the highest engagement rate, the best scores, just assessing different results thanks to different sessions, but all in one place. So kind of sounds complicated, actually pretty simple. Let me show you how this works by sharing my screen here. So here we are in my master session space. As you can tell, your workspace, have now divided this into two areas, your normal sessions and your master sessions. By going into my master sessions, I'm going to go ahead and go into this example. So this is a session that has been played 7 times. As you can tell, I'm going to go ahead and access the dashboard. And the dashboard here is very different from what you may have had access to up until now in Beekast. So as you can tell, this is a dashboard where all of the sessions that have been played are made accessible to me. So as you can see, this session has been played 7 times, and it has been played by various facilitators. So I can see that my colleague Elise, Cecile, I have hosted some of these sessions. So yeah, different facilitators, different agencies as well. We have agencies all around France. We have different cities that have been trained through these sessions, different teams. So that's interesting as well. And here, what I'm interested in showing you today are the filters. So what you can do thanks to the master clone session is, let's say I'm only interested in seeing clone sessions facilitated by one specific person. So I want to see how my colleague Lucas has been doing facilitating these sessions. So I can go ahead and click on apply. And here you can see that I have 2 sessions that were facilitated by Lucas. And what's interesting for me is that I can immediately see sessions, the total number of participants and the number of active participants. So the participation rate, sorry. So as you can tell, we have one agency where they went through this training session and we got 100% participation rate, which is great. This means that everyone who took part in the session actually went through the activities. They were there from start to finish, which is great. Whereas for the Bordeaux agency, I only have about an 87% participation rate, which means that one person was actually didn't participate. They weren't engaged at all. So that's maybe something that can give me a quick insight on, hey, Lucas, like, what happened here? I see that we have a smaller participation rate. Why were people less engaged? Did people not show up? Was this less communicated? Was this training session less communicated in the Bordeaux agency compared to the Rouen agency, for example? Another insight that I get is the correct answer rate. So as you can see, for my first session, for the Rouen agency, the session went really well. I think that we can easily say that the training was a success, just because in terms of evaluation, we got a 95% correct answer rate, which means that the individuals who were assessed, my participants, they understood the training session, they went through the activities, and they all got a really high success rate. So they got the right answers. Whereas for my Bordeaux agency, I can see that about only 55% of my participants got the right answer. So this once again can set off some little alarms, because as a training facilitator, I'm going to be wondering why this same session, because it's the same session hosted in different agencies by different people. Well, Lucas hosted both sessions, but in this one, I got a much smaller success rate, right? I can safely say that people have not gone through the training. They did not understand, and they have not acquired the right knowledge to finish the training successfully. So here I can really get a quick view and a quick look at how all of these training sessions went, and see kind of the best participation rate, correct answer rate. I can also go into my participant scores and see who were the most active users, who were the most active users during specific activities. Of course, I have my points versus my Bs. Bs are participation scores for those of you who are used to using these metrics to track engagement in a Beekast session. So yeah, that's kind of our latest change, is we've made this dashboard a lot easier and smoother to manage. The filters make it very easy for you to see just in a glance what's happening in your sessions. We've also gone in and changed a couple of the metrics, just because before we had a couple issues with the data and how it was showing up. Here, it's supposed to be a lot easier to read and a lot more accurate as well. We're still working on making the data as accurate as possible for you to be able to show these reports and share these results with your team as well. So yeah, that's kind of the major change in our master clone feature dashboard. For those of you who are interested, make sure to reach out to us at the end of this webinar. I'd be happy to set up a meeting with our sales team where they can go through the master clone feature with you and see if this could be something that you'd be interested in trying out for yourself. All right, I'm just going to move back in here. Make sure that we don't have any questions. All right, I see a couple of comments, but just people following along. I have one question wondering how to access the dashboard. So that's super simple, how to access the dashboard. So as you can see, your dashboard is made available in all of your master sessions. So when you're creating a master session, you are made the owner of the master session. And as an owner, you have access to the dashboard. Now, as you also have in the master session feature, the ability to be a co-owner. So it's exactly how it works in our normal Beekast sessions where you can add a facilitator, except the co-owner really has all of the access that the owner has. So it's above a co-facilitator. It just gives you access to download reports. So for example, in this dashboard, I can go ahead as a co-owner and as an owner, I can go ahead and download my Excel export and go ahead and have all of this information in an Excel format that makes it super easy afterwards to go in and just work with the data and in an Excel format, which people usually like as well, because we have a lot of clients who like to go in and do their own analysis and their own measuring of their Beekast sessions and results. So that makes it super easy as well. But yeah, if you want to access your dashboard, you can go ahead and click on dashboard in your master session. You can also go ahead and your workspace. When you go to your master sessions, you will be able to see show the results. And this I'll show you in my workspace right here where I have a couple more master sessions. As you can see, if I just click on show the results, I'm immediately taken to my dashboard. So once again, just in one click, you can access this dashboard. All right, thank you. Thank you for that question. I hope that I was able to answer it. Yes, perfect. All right. Well, that's the time. We made it in just 31 minutes, so we're right on time. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed all of these Beekast updates. It was super nice to be able to share these with you. We have even more updates showing up during the end of April and beginning of May, so I'll be super excited to share this with you as well. Make sure to sign up. As always, you can register for the upcoming What's New in Beekast webinar. The next one will be on May 20th, I believe. And you can sign up now if you want and make sure to keep yourself updated with everything that's happening in Beekast. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great day and see you very soon for a new webinar. Bye-bye.